Today I'll be showing you some new coastal and nautical DIYs as well as some of my favorites from last year. Stay tuned. I'm Rebecca Virginia, and every Thursday I put out a new video featuring home decor DIYs. Today we're going to dive into the summer DIYs and I'll be showing you some of my coastal favorites. Let's get started. First DIY in today's video is a super easy one. We're going to be using these two gorgeous fish garden stakes from the Dollar Tree and making our own coastal display. So first up, I got this piece of wood. This is one that I just had in my stash. We're redoing our deck, so of course I saved a bunch of the wood to use for crafting. So I am taking this and I'm just painting it in kind of a sandy color. I wanted it to be a light brown, but then I did go in and distress it a bunch so it kind of looked like driftwood. That was the goal here. And I did end up drilling two small holes into the top of this piece of wood. I just used a regular drill. I didn't need any fancy materials. It's just, my electric one that I got for 20 bucks on Amazon. And that is how I created the two holes. And these are the holes that we're going to be placing these fish into. The Dollar Tree fish stakes, I believe, are meant to just go ahead and put in your garden, but I wanted something actually to be used as display in my bathroom. Who doesn't have an ocean-themed bathroom in their house? So all that I did was place these down into the holes, and I got the varying heights just by really easily bending and breaking the yard stakes at the lengths that I wanted. Our next DIY is a faux glass float. I did a little bit of research on these because I'm sure that you all have seen these either in a beach town or in magazines and in Decor, and they were traditionally Japanese fishing floats, but now they are more so used as decor. They can be called sea glass floats, sea floats, but you guys have probably seen these around. I'll insert some pictures if you're not completely sure of what I'm talking about, but we are going to make ours actually out of plastic. So I grabbed one of these plastic terrariums from the Dollar Tree, and to get that sea glass look, I mixed a tiny bit of green paint with a good amount of Mod Podge, and I used this dabber to apply it because Mod Podge can create bubbles, and I liked that effect. I wanted it to have some bubbles in it, so that's why I am dabbing, so it really gives more of that sea foamy look. And now we are going to create. So I just grabbed a piece of jute. This one measured about 16 inches long, and then I cut 12 pieces of jute, also measuring 16 inches long. And this one we're going to be laying flat, and then all of the other 12 pieces we're going to be making loops and just attaching those to the one piece that I have. So that long piece that we're attaching all the other ones to is going to go around the opening of our terrarium. But first, before we can start doing all the intricate knotting, I am just placing these on here. I tried to space them out pretty evenly, but it's really easy to move the knots around. So once I had them all done, I took it and wrapped it around the opening of the terrarium and knotted it off. And once I had that knot in place and cut off all of the excess, I was able to move the knots around a little bit more just to make sure the spacing was all nice and good. The weaving looks complicated when it's done, but it's so easy. I grabbed two of the pieces of jute and I am just creating a knot. The only difficult part is you of course don't want to pull it too tight because you want it to have that little bit of an opening. And I ended up doing two knots, and then once I was done with that side, I moved on to the next two and just kept repeating this process. Again, the only difficult part was trying to maintain the similar opening width and length as all of the other ones. But really, this is supposed to be kind of creative and on your own, so if it's not perfect, it's okay. And I just kept going around the opening in that first layer. And then it's really easy. I didn't want to show you me doing the entire fishing float, but you're just going to continue this process and repeat it row after row, taking 2 of the jute pieces next to each other, knotting them. You can see me starting the second row now, doing the exact same thing, just taking the 2 jute pieces that are next to each other and knotting them. And once you're finishing up your knots, you'll start running out of jute. And when this happens, you are almost at the end. And this is when I just grabbed the ends of the jute pieces and pulled them to finish everything off and tie some knots at the bottom. I wasn't too worried about making this super pretty because this is going to be the bottom part, so you're not going to really see it. And then once I was done making the fishing net, I picked up some of this sea glass from the Dollar Tree. Bonus points if you have some of your own sea glass and sand save from maybe your travels. And then I grabbed one of these faux candles, also from the Dollar Tree, turned it on and placed the sea glass all around it so that it would hold our candle in place. It wouldn't be a beach or nautical themed DIY video if I didn't include at least one pirate themed DIY. So for this next craft, I am going to show you how to create your own pirate treasure chest. We're going to start off this nautical DIY with painting our wood crate from the Dollar Tree. I'm taking a microfiber cloth and some Waverly wax paint in the color Antique, and I am rubbing that onto the sides of our wood crate and that middle stripe area. To make this blue paint color, I mixed the shade English Navy from Apple Barrel with the shade Cayman Blue from Folk Art, and I'm applying this to the top stripe area of our wood crate, and also on the top of our wood crate, I'm going to be applying this to the middle stripe. Then I tried to make more of a beige color by mixing some brown paint with some white paint, and I'm applying this to the top of our wood crate. Again, I'm going to be going in that middle stripe with the blue color, but I just applied that to the top at first and to the bottom stripe. And you can see on the top I did go ahead and add in the blue color to that middle stripe. I want this chest to look super old, like it has been hiding on a pirate ship for centuries, so I'm going in very heavy-handedly with some brown paint and my stippling brush and really just dirtying up this chest. To make the knot that's going to go on top of our chest, I use some nautical jute rope from the Dollar Tree. It was twisted together, this natural color and this navy blue. I untwisted them so it wasn't quite as thick, and unfortunately I forgot to hit record when I was making it, so I'm going to be demonstrating instead on this blue nautical rope. You'll take an end of the rope in each hand, make a small loop with the rope in your right hand, then with your left hand you're going to take the rope and go over the knot, then under and through the knot and pull. And if that was a little confusing, don't worry, I'm going to do it again like 3 more times for you all. So again, we're making this little loop with the rope in our right hand. Then you take the rope in your left hand and go through the back of that circle, over the circle, and then through it from the back and pull. And I believe this is called a snake knot. I was looking up different types of nautical knots that you could make. And 2 of the places said this was a snake knot, so if you need a little bit more detailed of a tutorial on how to make this, that is what you'd want to Google. Again, making the loop, taking the rope in the left hand and pulling it through the loop, over and then back through and pulling tight to complete the knot. And you can just go ahead and add however many knots that you would like to complete the rope, which we're going to later be hot gluing on top of our chest. But first I wanted to make some straps for the chest, so I got this faux leather ribbon from the Dollar Tree and I hot glued it down to each end of our wood crate. Then with our completed snake knot rope, we are going to hot glue that to the top of our chest so that it acts as a handle to it. I found these starfish pins at the Dollar Tree and thought they were so cute and knew that I had to use it as the centerpiece on this chest, So I went ahead and painted it this rusty red color and hot glued it to the center of our chest. I love the weathered look of this chest and think that it will be the perfect piece of rustic coastal decor. The next Dollar Tree DIY is a piece of a lighthouse wall decor. When I saw that the Dollar Tree had all of their nautical beach decor out, I first spotted this lighthouse sign and thought it was so unique that I just had to pick it up to DIY. So first, I am starting off by taking the whole thing apart, removing all of the ribbon from the back, and sanding off any bits of glitter that were on the wording on top of our lighthouse. Similar to what we did with our previous chest DIY, I want this to look like an old nautical item, so I want to make this a very old looking lighthouse. So to start, I'm going to just paint everything white and get a nice clean base so then we can go in with our navy and start shading. The main color here is going to be that dark navy, and then I'm going to add in a bit of the red just like I did in the first DIY. So I'm taking my blue paint and painting the entire bottom part of the lighthouse and the top and bottom part of the first piece of the lighthouse. I wanted to add a 3D fence area to the top of the lighthouse, so I'm actually taking these fences that are from an old Christmas scene, and I'm really happy that I didn't throw these out because I've actually used them in a spring DIY video too. And what I'm doing is taking my miter shears, which I got from Amazon, I will link them down below, and I'm just cutting off 4 of these little fence posts, and I'm going to be lining those up along the window area on the top of our lighthouse. So I'm just taking some brown paint and painting them brown so that they will pop against the dark navy background. And originally I had planned to paint this area brown, which is why I was a little bit careless when I was putting down the blue paint, but I decided to paint it white instead so that our fence posts would pop more. Before adding in the fence posts, now that the paint on my lighthouse has dried, it is time to distress it. Again, I want this to look like a very old and weathered lighthouse, so I'm taking my stippling brush that I got from the Crafter's Square section of the Dollar Tree and some brown paint from Apple Barrel and just going all around the lighthouse, making lines and trying to distress it. To add a nautical look to the fence that's going on the top of our lighthouse, I wrapped jute around it twice and then hot glued it down. And without cutting the line of jute, I went ahead and added another fence post connecting the two with the jute, and again wrapping it twice around the fence post before hot gluing it down onto our lighthouse. I repeated this process with the other 2 fence posts and then just hot glued the last little piece of jute on the end to the back of our lighthouse. Next, to piece our lighthouse back together and turn it into a hanging sign, I flipped the entire lighthouse over and I'm going to be using a piece of jute to hold together our lighthouse. I measured about 3/4 of an inch between all of the lighthouse pieces. It didn't exactly stay precisely that size, but I tried my best to keep it at 3/4 of an inch. And then I just took some tape to tape down where I thought the jute should go before going in with my hot glue gun to permanently hold the jute in place. With our sign now hanging in place, it's time to add the last little bits of embellishment onto the sign. So I love this red anchor. I found it at the Dollar Tree, and I thought it would look so cute on this lighthouse, kind of how I did the red starfish on the last DIY. I loved the touch of red with the nautical blue. I wanted something holding onto my anchor, so I took some nautical rope and just placed it into the center of our anchor. It was too thick to pull all the way through, but putting down some hot glue in the center of it worked fine. And then I wanted it to kind of snake up the lighthouse, so again I'm using tape just to map out my pattern before I end up going back in with the glue gun to make this permanent. And I did add a little curly circle at the top as well. To finish off this DIY, I took a piece of jute and strung it through the hole that was already made at the top of this project and went ahead and tied it into a knot to turn it back into a hanging sign. The next DIY may look intricate, but it's actually really easy and uses minimal supplies. Let's get started making our coastal candle. Also, I forgot to add it in the supplies, but you will need sand to make this DIY. So we are going to be making our very own coastal candle. And the first thing that I'm doing is cutting a bunch of bamboo skewers that I got from the Dollar Tree. You get 100 in a pack, so it's a really great deal. And I already did one side of the candle for you so that you have a visual aid as I try to explain why I'm cutting the bamboo skewers. And basically what we're going to be doing is trying to create some dune fencing for our candle. So I'm cutting the bamboo skewers with these miter shears that I got off Amazon, which I absolutely love. And I'm cutting them at all sorts of different heights. And then I took a rubber band and put it around my glass candle. And this way I can kind of figure out how I want the faux dune fencing to look before I add the hot glue to make it permanent. So I'm just playing around with the different lengths of the bamboo skewers until I figure out a pattern that I like, and then I removed them from the glass jar and took off the rubber bands and went ahead and made my pattern permanent by adding some hot glue and placing the bamboo skewers down onto our glass candle holder. Then I completed the exact same process to the two last remaining sides of our glass candle, putting down the rubber bands, applying the bamboo skewers, kind of figuring out the placement that I want, then removing our rubber bands and permanently placing down our bamboo skewers with some hot glue. As a border around the bottom of our glass nautical candle, I took some jute and just hot glued it all the way around, and I ended up doing this 4 times, so I had a semi-thick band of jute at the bottom of our candle. As the focal piece for our candle, I am taking one of these shells that came in a bag of a bunch of them at the Dollar Tree and hot gluing it to the front of our glass jar. Now I am taking some white sand and filling up about 1/4 of our candle holder. Then I took one of these set of candles from the Dollar Tree and I just kind of twisted it down into the sand so that it is nice and secure at the center of our candle holder. I continued adding a little bit more sand around the candle, but not too much because I don't want it to be higher than where our bamboo skewer sticks are, because I still want it to look like the skewer sticks are holding back the sand dunes. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all next Thursday with a new video. Until then, keep searching, keep creating.